This is Gradowski of WeAreChange.org here in Lyon, France, and in today's video, I am definitely going to probably trigger people on the right, but don't worry, there will be a reality check for people on the left in the latest paradigm, nonpartisan news provided here on WeAreChange. And of course, we're going to get into a very important subject that is a threat against humanity and one of the favorite tactics of the elites to use in order to divide and conquer us, and that, of course, is false flag terrorism, which will be brought into context with from the latest events that unfolded, and luckily were able to prevent a false flag attack being carried out in Germany recently. Now, the term false flag, which of course is not commonly used in society, is described as a covert operation designed to deceive in such a way that activities appear as though they were carried out by entities, groups, or nations other than those who actually planned and executed them. The term historically originally comes from naval warfare, where naval warships were caught using flags that were not of their military or their country that they were fighting for in order to confuse their enemy. And now we are finding out that a German lieutenant in the German military was actually plotting a false flag terror attack in order to blame it on the refugees that have been coming into Europe. A 28-year-old army lieutenant, Franco Albrecht, came to the notice of authorities after Austrian police caught him with a loaded handgun at the Vienna airport in February, and after an investigation they found out that this army lieutenant created a fake identity as a Damascus fruit seller called David Benjamin. He then, with the fake alias, was able to gain political asylum, a spot in a refugee shelter, and monthly state benefits for his fictionist alter ego. Of course, there was other co-conspirators involved, and they plotted an attack with the apparent aim of discrediting foreigners. After this German lieutenant failed to answer a court summons in Austria for the loaded handgun in the Vienna airport, a wider investigation was triggered and uncovered his false flag plot. And if his plan would have succeeded, his fingerprints would have registered on the refugee record system and led to investigators to a false identity as a Syrian asylum seeker from a terror attack that he would plan and assassinate well-known political figures. Now, it still hasn't been confirmed whether this is the sole action of one German lieutenant or if there's a network of army personnel who were involved in this plot, but it is interesting to note that this German lieutenant actually wrote a thesis paper on political change and subversion strategy. And this, of course, brings me to the larger context of this story, and that is the history and importance of false flag terrorism that has had a significant impact on world events and has changed human history in many significant ways. If someone studies political subversion, they would understand the full power of it and how it was used before, especially with incidences like the Reichstag fire, the Gulf of Tonkin incident, and of course Operation Gladio, which brings very important context to this story, as it was a secret operation carried out by the CIA, MI6, and NATO after World War II, where they had a secret network of fascists, quote, stay behind cells, that were trained to carry out acts of terrorism in the events of a Soviet invasion. This operation was then exposed in 1980 as the stay-behind cells were carrying out strings of false flags attacks that were blamed on communist groups. And at the end of the Cold War, Islamic groups were substituted for the stay-behind cells, as exposed by whistleblower Sibel Edmonds, as she revealed Operation Gladio B, and as an FBI whistleblower exposed how the U.S. intelligence and U.S. Pentagon had close ties to Al-Qaeda. And of course, this should be no surprise to you, especially if you have been watching this channel, because even right now as we are speaking, we have US-led forces and bombing campaigns inside of Yemen that are fighting alongside Al-Qaeda, just like the United States did in Syria and in Libya before. And oh yeah, let's not also forget Afghanistan. Now, the threat of false flag terrorism is very real, but it shouldn't undermine the radicalization of Islamists, the other threat of legitimate terrorism that is carried out by individuals who have lower IQ or predisposition genetically towards more aggressive actions, who do carry out real terrorist operations and are a threat. But at the same time, we still should be diligent, question what we're being told, and be on the lookout for politically motivated false flag terrorist attacks that do serve a motive. And the motive is very clear, and it has been throughout history. Now, it's also important to understand that throughout history, the left and right have both used the tool of false flag terrorism in order to push their agenda, because it furthers the Hegelian dialect of problem, reaction, solution, creating an enemy to corral a population behind a tyrannical agenda, furthering pushing for the so-called clash of civilizations, which is a hypothesis that people's culture and religious identity will be the primary source of conflict in the post-Cold War era. And that's exactly what we have been seeing in modern-day society, escalated through many world events and violent protests, establishing and allowing the elites to divide and rule by breaking up the major concentration of power, humanity, So we altogether don't realize the true power that we have within ourselves to actually face the problems of the elites and corrupt government, but rather fight amongst ourselves. Now, for me personally, this is an extremely important topic that has been widely abandoned by the alt media. And while the threat from radicalized Islamists is still real, and at the same time, we should realize that false flag terrorist attacks are a possibility, especially in our polarized society that uses victimization in order to push their agenda, emotionally manipulating you for your perceived reaction, which will eventually lead to their solution. And that is more war, more conflict, and more divide and rule. And as we just saw in Germany, that threat is very real. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section below, especially if you disagree with me. And of course, if this message resonated with you, share this video and support us on wearechange.org/donate, since we are an independent media organization that is solely dependent on your funds in order to continue the work that we are doing. Love you guys very much. Thank you so much for watching.